Hi, and welcome to this webinar hosted by Lithius Group. I'm your moderator, Ben Bomar, president and founder of Lithius Group, and this is a re-recording of our previous webinar focused on the 4 seasons of knowledge retention. If you're watching, I'm glad you are, how do you know if you're in the right place? Well, quite frankly, what do you have in mind for 2025? Are you a founder whose business is moving to the next stage? If you are part of an established business, do you have plans to expand? Maybe you're the owner of an organization and anticipate some significant turnover within your ranks. Or maybe retirement is in view for you or key people on your team. If it's any of those reasons or anything close, then you are in the right place. And for the next 25 to 30 minutes, we're going to give you some real actionable information and perhaps a new perspective on the role of institutional knowledge and the potential timing of when you should retain it. Well, who am I, though? Who am I to speak on this? Well, I'm Ben Bomar, and I'm, as I said, president and founder of Lithius Group. And I founded Lithius in 2021 to help folks reduce the business disruption that occurs when there are key employee transitions. Now, at the time, right, there was COVID, there was a great resignation that happened, but we've evolved, and today we help clients celebrate, retain, and share the wisdom of their teams. And this is particularly relevant to folks who are business builders, team leaders, and visionaries. So our agenda today, we're going to talk about these 4 seasons of knowledge retention. I'm going to introduce and define the concept of institutional knowledge and break it apart into the components. Then, with that understanding, we'll walk through those seasons in detail and confirm that your experience is relevant, right? You're going through one of these seasons right now, probably. I'll share a playbook for when and how to take action whichever season you find yourself in. And then you'll get some very specific steps on how you can get started right after this webinar and begin making a positive impact for your organization. So let's get started. I won't belabor the point that we have 4 seasons. I'm here in Minnesota. We are entering our winter. It certainly feels like the longest season. But when it comes to business and it comes to knowledge retention, you may find yourself moving through one or multiple of these seasons, either sequentially or out of order, right? In the startup phase, it's very founder-centric. And so it's all about activity and potential and just getting out there and being active in the market. Whereas in the summer, it's about scaling and growing and maximizing the opportunities you have with the time that you have. In the fall or autumn, it's time to harvest, right? Profit, evaluate, understand how the season went and the lessons that you've learned from that. It's often a great time to sell or acquire. And of course, there's winter, right? There's retirement. Hopefully that's a time of gratitude. That's a time of preparation when you know that someone's going to retire and being planful about how you are going to survive without them. But what's absolutely critical at each of these phases, and particularly as you move between phases, is that there is a transfer of institutional knowledge, how things are done around here. That's got to be communicated to multiple people so that the business can continue to operate as it has. So what is institutional knowledge? Well, it is the critical process skills, the learned experience, and the supportive networks that help make your most successful people successful. And it's often found in folks with long tenures, deep subject matter expertise, and often significant influence over strategic direction, which is really the audience for this webinar today. And institutional knowledge is tremendously valuable. It is at the core of what your customers have come to expect, right? It's also how your teams work with each other day to day. And it is the basis of the confidence that you as a leader have in your team's ability to resolve issues in the way that your customers expect. We use this metaphor at Lithius of kintsugi, this Japanese art of mending broken pottery with gold, right? And it's a good metaphor because oftentimes the most valuable part of an organization is not how the standing operating procedures are written, but instead what the team did and the lessons they learned and the solutions that they devised when the plan itself was broken. And that's really the power of institutional knowledge. And lots of folks gravitate to it, get that. I hope you're one of them. There's also a way to go deeper. Take a moment and think about someone in your organization who embodies institutional knowledge. It might even be you, right? What is it that makes that person so valuable? We use this framework of knowing, doing, and being, right? Is it their deep understanding of your domain, your industry, and your context? Is it their ability to execute core processes flawlessly? Or is it the unique essence that that person brings to the team? See, we understand in our hearts and our gut that we would miss people, but now we have a bit way to talk about what it is that we would specifically miss about them if they were to transition and take their knowledge with them. But those periods of transition, let's talk about what that is. So in the startup phase, right, often it's the founder. The founder is busy seeking validation of their idea and testing and confirming that their idea is actually a business. And a quick shout out to my friends at Cloudburst here in Minneapolis, some of the best explanations of this concept for founders and innovators that I've heard. Now, while that founder is out there beating the bushes, trying to make the market aware of their offering, see exactly who their target customer ought to be, they are representing their organization, often as the only face of that organization, just constantly in business development mode. And they are developing tremendous institutional knowledge, right? They're articulating their vision and their purpose to themselves, to new team members, to clients and potential customers. They're finding out what's working. They're finding out what doesn't work. And they're really starting to describe and understand who their customer is and what they have promised them in those early phases where they're probably making lots of concessions and lots of adaptations to try to meet customer demand. So at that time, what they know, what they're capable of doing, and who they are as a person, their being and the vision and the culture that they're building, all of that is critical to the founder at the startup stage. And it's housed by the founder and often only within their minds. Now we move out of that stage and we move into growth, right? So perhaps you own a business and now it's time to grow, or perhaps you're an investor or an acquirer and you're seeking that return on investment and wanting to get some scale to really make it happen. Where you're trying to get the most out of that product that you've built, owned, or acquired. And that means that you are expanding. You're moving into different offices. You're hiring new individuals. You're innovating and using technology. You're delegating in different ways. And all of that means that growth and scale comes with newness. But at the same time, there is this desire to have the processes that are delighting customers at scale become standard. And those processes, those new best practices, are starting to be developed by individuals who are 3 or 4 or more levels away from the executive leaders. So functional areas are specializing and teams are beginning to work with each other or not in different ways. So best practices are being built throughout the organization and they may not be shared in all cases because of, frankly, how difficult it can be. So that could be happening during a growth and scale season. When you look at selling and acquiring, it's time to harvest and reap the benefits, right? It's also a great time to document the history of the organization. The values, the mythology of the organization are important. You know, here in the US, we have the story of George Washington and the cherry tree, all about I cannot tell a lie. It tells us something about the type of country that we want to be and the history and ethos of who we are. So leaders often have that perspective on where the company has been or the organization has been, where they could go, what the expectations of their leadership have been, what their leadership and their lieutenants' expectations of them have been. It's a perfect time to document the school of hard knocks, right? And by this point, oftentimes the founder and the owner is no longer in the doing phase within the organization, but what they know about their industry and domain and the way in which they are being influences the culture positively. That is core and can be captured at this time. And finally, there's retirement. And quite frankly, this is going to happen at all times. I talked about how these seasons are not always sequential. Definitely the case with retirement. We know that Americans are turning retirement age at massive numbers, right? In 2024, 11,000 people, more than 11,000 people per day were turning 65. That number in 2025 is going to be somewhere between 10,000 and 11,000. And even though we know we should celebrate these retirees and we should get their wisdom and make it available to others. Oftentimes we don't, right? Because, well, maybe the classic mentor and learning by osmosis relationships haven't been built. Maybe it's the tyranny of the now, and we just think that having that person who's going to retire do that one last tactical task for us is more important than taking time to train someone else to do it or explain why it's being performed in that way. So all of this succession planning, all of this transfer is happening or not, largely because of the workforce that we have today. But what is really important, and the opportunity that you have as leaders, is to celebrate these people right as they are planning to retire and celebrate all the components of institutional knowledge. They're knowing, they're doing, and they're being. So great. We know where we are in the situation. Hopefully you see yourself or have seen yourself in the past in one of those situations. What's the playbook? I use this image of two people standing there with the post-it notes because it really can be that simple. So I'll show that to you. You'll see the images and guide you through how you might choose to take some action if you find yourself in one of these situations. So we'll start with founders. Let's take that you are the founder. So take time to memorialize your institutional knowledge. I want to tell you that early in the startup phase, you as a founder, how you do things is what it's most important to transition to other people, right? It could be the tasks that you perform, the skills that you have, the tools that you use. Because in order for you to increase your bandwidth, in order for your organization to grow enough to move into the growth stage, you are going to need to stop being the bottleneck on those activities and the place and the bottleneck through which all activities flow. So there are tons of tools that can help you memorialize and share this information. And I want to recommend 3. First off, recording your steps online using a tool like Loom. I've done other LinkedIn posts on Loom. It's a great way of capturing the steps of what you do as you lead your organization. If it's a physical process, checklists are a fantastic way to get down how things need to be done if they can't be demonstrated on screen. And you see that bookmark there. Truly, you'd be surprised how important the websites, the web apps, and the online tools that we use every day, how core they are to sharing with other people, right? Share with them how you use these tools, and they will be able to meet your expectations when you choose to delegate to them. And that could be delegating to virtual assistants because you know what good looks like. So now you're able to hand that off to someone else. It could be onboarding new employees. It could be coaching current employees up to next levels of support and leadership. So doing is really critical. Being is next. You might have thought it would be knowing, but your organization is still new. You're still in that startup phase. You're still learning what you know. So right now, instead, as a founder, focus on being, your leadership style, the culture that you want for the organization, your vision for where that organization is going to go. And here, storytelling, again, that can be captured via video, as well as intentional mentor-protege relationships and sessions where you ideate and capture what you think is possible. Those are great ways of transferring your institutional knowledge. This is not going to become a book. It's not necessarily going to become a PDF in all cases. Instead, it might be some combination of video and time and sessions and memorialization and documentation. And that is going to create amazing materials to share with potential investors about what you see as the potential for your business, to onboard new people, and again, to be able to promote from within. And if you do, as a founder, have a particular insight into your industry, your domain, your customer persona, then I would encourage you to document that as well. Again, using some of the similar tools, telling stories, getting your files off of your laptop and somewhere into a shared wiki, mapping out processes at a high level, not just mouse clicks, but what needs to happen in your organization for your organization to have a way of doing business. That will also help people get acclimated as they onboard, as they become your protege, and as they move up throughout your organization. Now, we spend a lot of time on those particular slides or those particular steps, and now we'll see how they are used in different combination and in different order at different times. So in the summer, right, you're in this growth period, documenting your ways of working. And as you grow, it is about finding the best practices that are delighting your customers and are helping your team members and colleagues work to their best potential. So start by identifying a best practice. Then determine, is that really focused on the knowledge, the doing, the skill at performing something, or is it on the being? And the reality is, we find that about 60% of the time, a best practice truly is doing. It makes sense, right? So the same ideas apply. What skills, what tools, what tasks, how can you record them? How can you make them teachable, trainable, and followable for other people? And how can you make them aware of the tools that they will need to be successful? So about 2/3 of the time, you're going to find out that your best practice is really about doing and building skills. About 1/3 of the time, it's going to be knowledge. You're just going to have to know how to take care of a customer, how to deal with an issue, what the history of the organization is, something about your industry and your domain. So about 1/3 of the time, knowing is important. Use those same skills I talked about earlier. In relatively few cases is a best practice going to be how someone is, right? Their specific sense of being. So I don't want to say it's not possible, but look in the skills and look in the knowing areas of your organization if you want to document. And then once you have that practice down, you understand how to do it, just repeat, repeat, repeat. This is a time in which you can make tremendous incremental gains by finding best practices, celebrating the people who have them, documenting them, making them shareable, and doing that all over again. Now, later on in the season, we get to selling and acquisition. And it's time to establish a new baseline from which future leaders will be able to make their impact. If you're a founder, if you're a business owner, if you're someone in charge, you have made your impact by this point. And so one of the most difficult decisions that you've got to make is to accept your emeritus status. If you can do that, and it's not easy, but if you can do that, then you have an opportunity to really position your organization for tremendous success in the future and to leave a legacy that is supportive and is not a hindrance to your successor. So accept the emeritus status and then start sharing your knowledge and wisdom. Again, who are the personas? What's the industry? What is the history and the mythology of your organization? Share it, and you will be able to educate folks who might want to purchase your organization, who might want to rise through the ranks, and who you might need to mentor in order to be able to get them to that point. You know, if you think about it, when an acquiring organization, when so much of the acquiring organization relies on a founder in order to be successful, or an owner in order to be successful, then wouldn't they have to discount a little bit if you're no longer going to be a part of that organization? So to the extent that you can leave your wisdom with the team, you make the team actually more valuable as a part of an acquisition. And so to that end, it's your knowledge, and then it's your being, the culture, the leadership expectations, the vision that you've established. And this is a great opportunity for you as an exiting founder and emeritus leader to have an impact, to recognize your own contribution as well as those of the folks around you, and quite frankly, emotionally, to build some closure as you think about this next stage in your time. I acknowledged earlier, rarely do you want to get the founder or the business owner documenting how they do it, because most organizations have grown beyond that. But if a founder or owner is integral to the actual performance of the task, I highly recommend you document how they do it using these same tools. So lastly, let's talk about the winter, right? And retirements. When a key person tells you that they are planning to leave for retirement, they are giving you a gift. They're giving you a gift of time. They're giving you a gift of visibility into the future. Plenty of things are going to challenge your plan next year. And this person is telling you, my departure will be coming on this date. If that represents a challenge to you because of the institutional knowledge they have, they've given you a gift by giving you some foresight. So identify those key people when they tell you that they're going to retire. And then focus on all three areas: the knowing, the doing, and being. You are creating not only an opportunity by recognizing them, celebrating them, and documenting what they know, you're creating an opportunity to do a couple things. One, you're helping your organization be more resilient through transitions. Two, you are demonstrating care and engagement and celebration of those people who have helped you reach the success that you've reached. And third, other people are watching. By doing it publicly, by celebrating these folks, other people know that their contributions to your organization will be appreciated now and into the future. It's just an amazing thing to happen when you celebrate someone by asking them what they know so that it can be shared with others for the betterment of those people and the entire organization. So with that, I want to encourage you to get started. If you find yourself at one of these founder-centric seasons, right, spring or fall, schedule 3 meetings with yourself. Record during that meeting your thoughts on 3 key messages that you wish every employee would internalize, right? Something about knowing, something about doing, something about being. If there are documents that support that, you might pair the video and the document together and share that with someone that you trust and ask for their feedback and ask what they think the positive impacts might be of sharing this with other people. Pick someone you trust. It can freak people out when you start talking about things in this way. We don't often take a time to recognize that we want to share our wisdom, and people can get a little bit off kilter. So pick someone you trust. Then in the summer, if you are in that growth mode, well, I want you to pick one subject matter expert. I encourage you to focus on a skill, a doing essence that they have. Meet with them and record them as they perform that task. Develop a document, some sort of guide, a checklist, a whatever. Pair it with that video, share it with someone that you trust, and see if you think it would help, see if they think it would help improve their performance. If you find that and it works, repeat it. And then if you find yourself supporting folks who are retiring, identify that person, thank them for what they've done for you, and let them know that they are the best practice for your organization. And you hope that more people have an opportunity to work in the same way that they do. Create with them 3 videos, create with them 3 documents. Have them identify someone who might be an up-and-comer that you might want to tap on the shoulder and say, hey, I'd like you to learn from X person who's retiring. See what that does for their self-esteem, what it does for that other person's performance, and what it does for you in your ability to sleep a little better at night, knowing that some of these best practices have been transitioned. And it's really important, quite frankly, that you do this, because when you look at your plans for next year, I guarantee you, you are going to be challenged sometimes by challenges that you've faced before, and many times by challenges you haven't. But if you have been challenged by them in the past, have you forgotten how to be successful? If you haven't seen them before, are you going to be able to respond in a way that's consistent with your organization? So can you respond confidently in the way that your clients expect, in the way that your teams best operate, leveraging the lessons of the past? And can you do that without you as a leader being dragged into some sort of project management and having it blow up, these unexpected things that happen, having that blow up your calendar? So I want to encourage you to get started now, because we know these challenges will come. I also want to, you've heard me say many times, celebrate, retain, and share. I want to make it crystal clear. We strongly recommend always start with celebration. Right? We do that because it sets people at ease when you celebrate them publicly, when you make it positive, and when you make it inspiring for other people within the organization. Folks want to emulate that. If you try that without celebration and you just have a program where we retain what people know and we share it with others, you will find that members on your team, even the ones who trust, they will start to pull into themselves and withdraw and not want to share as much. But when you make it a part of a celebration, it's amazing what people are able to share and make available to their colleagues. And we know that to be true because that is the type of success that we have seen with the celebrate, share, and retain, celebrate, retain, and share model at Lithius. Right? We've transitioned benefits officers who are leaving after 20 years in their one role and have managed myriad of processes. We have gone in and worked with leaders that are responsible for, well, way more than half of the revenue coming into an organization and mapped out their best practices and their processes so that there is continuity and that senior leadership sleep better at night. And to that end, senior leadership documentation, we've gone in and supported an entire leadership team to really document the way that they do business, which helped them be more attractive as they were selling it and being acquired. So we know that it works. And we have a broad experience across a variety of sectors. So if you're in manufacturing, if you are in healthcare, insurance, service, impact, thought leadership, there are really ways that this process of celebrating, retaining, and sharing works for institutional knowledge. Now, if you're inspired, but you think you might want help or you'd like to know more about how we do it, let me share a little bit about two of our key products. One is our key person programs. They focus on particular people in the organization who know a lot about a lot. The people that you pray don't win the lottery because you don't know what you would do if they were to leave, right? It's an interview-based approach that creates multimedia products that can be put into action immediately as a part of development plans, succession plans, and onboarding for new employees. Now, on the other side, we have best practice programs that are focused more on subject matter expertise and particular skills. And so over a period of months, we help build a library of these best practices through interviews and asynchronous work so that there is ultimately a catalog of materials that, again, can help with onboarding new people, development plans, and helping coach up those employees who need to rise to your standards of excellence. So with that, I want to thank you for participating in today's webinar, for watching on demand if you're doing that. I encourage you to connect with me, connect with us on LinkedIn, follow us, visit our website, and reach out because we would love to connect with you, share more with you about what we offer. But most importantly, we want to see you be successful in celebrating and preserving the institutional knowledge of the people on your team, including yourself, that have made your success possible. Thank you so much.